Hello, this is Naudi Aguilar at Functional Patterns. For today's video, I'm going to show you a myofascial release technique to help relieve tension off the IT band or the lateral border of the thigh. In recent years, an awareness has emerged on this region of the body as a result of people now becoming more conscious of how their body works as an integrated system. The problem is that most of these people involved in structural movement and things like functional training are still working in the sagittal plane almost exclusively, really just moving in a straightforward linear fashion. The problem is that the human being is not adapted in moving in that context. We don't move as a bilateral organism. This is kind of like how a kangaroo would move. Like kangaroos move in the sagittal plane. Human beings have actually adapted to move in a unilateral stance where we involve rotation of the trunk and a contralateral reciprocation of the upper and lower limbs of the body. Now we have to understand that if you don't use something, you're going to lose it. And since most people in general don't rotate with their body, they're going to lose that function with their body. And let's say if you're thinking about doing functional movement throughout the day, if you don't train this, you're going to lose it. So therefore, your body is then going to have backup systems for stability, for power, for performance. And for our specific concerns, we have to think about the IT band. And well, if you lose rotation, you have to think that your body's either going to compensate with sagittal plane movement, like with lumbar extension, which is very common, or kyphosis, or it's also going to compensate with a lateral movement. So we have sagittal plane movement straight forward and back. We have lateral movement, which is going to be the frontal plane. And that's what people in general also compensate with. And if we look at the IT band, it's right here, smack dab on the lateral border of the thigh. So whenever you're working in dysfunction and you're not good at rotating, what's going to be coupled with that is going to be a tightness on that IT band. And so essentially what we're going to focus on today is trying to break up the adhesions on the IT band. We're not going to try and stretch out the IT band because that's virtually impossible. So what we're going to focus on is trying to break up the adhesions from the IT band to the vastus lateralis. And we're going to do that via the usage of a lacrosse ball. Now, I will warn that this is an extreme myofascial release technique, and that if you've never done myofascial release, I would not recommend doing this given technique. You may want to start off with some kind of a foam roller or a medicine ball and work your way up to the point where you're actually going to do this specific technique with these tools. So I'll have you guys follow me over here. So what we're going to need for this myofascial release technique, we're going to be utilizing a barbell. We're going to use, I like to use like a Muay Thai pad. This is for me, it's available to me. So this is what I'm going to use. If you have some kind of a cushion, it should be able to work the same. I'm going to have an optional weight here. And my myofascial release tool is actually going to be a baseball. This is very advanced. Again, I don't recommend everybody go straight to a baseball because the IT band generally tends to be a pretty painful area for somebody to work on. But if you're already progressed, this is a really great tool. It's a couple bucks, and it really does do a great job. So essentially, I learned this from one of my students. She's one of my master trainers. Her name's Vadana Vahid. She's from Functional Patterns, Middle East. I learned this technique, so shouts out to you, Vadana. All right, so what we're going to be doing here is I'm going to be laying on my side. So really what I'm going to do is I'm going to rest the bar on top of my thigh here. So what I want to do is rest this here so that way the bar is not going directly on my thigh. I'm going to then grab the barbell and place it on top of my thigh and then lay on my side here, as you guys can see. So now I have there's a good spacing here. I don't have any pressure going on my thigh. From there, I'm going to bring the baseball underneath my IT band. I'm going to bring my leg over the top of that. Now, one thing I like about an effective myofascial release is when I don't have to do anything. As you guys see right now, you'll see that this is giving me great effect because I have the weight of the barbell dropping on top of this trigger point, but I'm not straining myself. And if you look at most IT band releases or any myofascial releases for that matter, there's always some kind of strain involved where you're having to stabilize your body. And sometimes what that can do is create some kind of a neurological activation of the entire fascia network, and then that begins to it can cut off the capability of you releasing that given muscle. So when you're more relaxed, since the body is entirely relaxed, it's quite likely that the IT band is going to relax here and that you'll get a much more effective release. So I usually just like going in here, hitting that lateral border of that thigh, letting you just kind of settle in there, and really try moving around. I mean, get a little bit into the parts of the vastus lateralis, and then move a little bit posteriorly almost to where you're almost like close to your hamstring. Really explore when you're in this area. This is an obvious progression, just having this thing on here, but for me, since I'm more experienced, I would actually grab a weight and put it on the barbell and then let that sucker sit on top of that. So usually I don't move too often. Maybe if I do move in increments, it may be like increments of maybe like 1 millimeter to another, maybe as far as a centimeter. But I typically don't move too much while I'm releasing it. I kind of just let my body sink into the ball. You can hang out there for a period of about anywhere between like 2 to 5 minutes, and that should be more than enough. You can then switch sides when you need to. It's a great technique. Like I said before, it's an advanced technique. I only recommend doing it after you've obviously adapted yourself towards using like a medicine ball or a foam roller, and that's kind of gotten boring for you. You have to understand that if you want to address dysfunction on your body, it takes an extreme approach. And if you are taking a passive approach like a foam roller, you're only going to get so far. And we have to understand that human beings have adapted into a culture that's not beneficial of our DNA as human beings. Humans adapted over the course of millions of years to walk on 2 feet and essentially evolved to be able to move upright. And when we sit ourselves at a desk for 10 hours a day, that is an extreme adaptation. And extreme deficiency, it requires extreme measures if we expect to correct those deficiencies. So here's an extreme technique that you can use. I would also recommend implementing more rotation, working on your posture so you can get that rotation back, so that way you can also get at the root of this deficiency. But we have to realize this is all a building process. This technique is going to also help your thoracic rotation, because if we eliminated dysfunction at the IT band, it's going to travel up the kinetic chain. So here's one more thing that you can employ into your functional training program. I do hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. This is Naughty Aguilar at Functional Patterns, reminding you to stretch intentionally and not habitually.